So what does this show us about how Christians can come to terms with the pagan stories of their cultural history? What do you think?
The reason that I have these conversations, and I've been doing the universal history work that I've been doing, the courses of Symbolic World, and this show with you, like all of that stuff is of a piece, because for me, these are things that there's no way to effectively talk about this in an academic setting, number one.
Right.
And number two,
Yeah.
it's not your Christianity that makes you feel like these stories have nothing to do with you. Be like Christianity is not like some other universe that's far removed from all of this other stuff.
Right.
It's your modernity.
Yeah.
And
it's
your
all one world.
Right. And it's the fact that we're conditioned to sort of think about the world in these totally different ways that make these kinds of stories and this kind of poetry, and the idea that you would actually maybe sit around a fire and even tell a story like this, totally implausible. And so what I've been trying to do is to do the explainy bits so that somebody who's a better storyteller than me can do the storytelling bits.
Yeah.
And I am trying to do the storytelling pieces too. But anyway, I just say all that to say, you shouldn't even feel like you need to come to terms. That's what I really want to say. You don't have to come to terms with this stuff because one, your ancestors already did. Two, this is God's world.
Yes.
Right? And therefore these are our stories.
Right.
Right. So you don't feel like you need to come to terms with it. Just read it. Like I can sit down and read this stuff or tell the stories to my kids. And because my children have grown up in a Christian home, they know Dad's telling a story right now. And this is not the same as, the book of Genesis. But also, they're going to notice the things. They're going to say, this is kind of like Genesis,
Yep.
Or this is really different. Or I sure am glad that this is not actually my religion. Or, like you don't have to come to terms with this stuff. And in most cases, kids get it. They get it. They understand what's going on. They understand the difference between this kind of story and this kind of story. And I think that, in most cases, we do not need to be afraid. I tried to make the argument when we were talking about the Iliad. There's a direct connection between Homer and Holy Week. And that actually, I don't think I said this explicitly, the hymns of Holy Week, and the narrative and the things that we do ritually of Holy Week, if you take them all together, that's the great Christian epic. But it is impossible without Homer. So much so that when Christians are reading Homer in the Byzantine era, they're saying things like, oh, this seems to be sort of like a pagan Holy Week. Right? Yeah. We talked about how it's like the idea of like a pagan fall story, but it's also a pagan Holy Week. I mean, you have, and so other people, scholars have noticed that there's all of these times when Thetis is like bemoaning her son because his life is going to be so short. Well, throughout Holy Week, we have a whole category of hymn called the Stavro Theotokia, which is the Theotokos doing exactly that, but then the last line is almost always, but I trust you know what you're doing. I trust in the resurrection, even though it seems impossible, and even though it seems like that those two things are connected. You really, I'm not saying the events wouldn't have happened, but what I'm saying is that we wouldn't have the poetic diction, we wouldn't have the storytelling capacity as a civilization to make holy work what it is, which I believe that the hymns of Holy Week in the Orthodox Church are the supreme work of world literature. They're more than that, but they're not less than that.
Yeah.
And they're in stronger continuity with Homer than anything that's ever happened in the West for obvious historical and linguistic reasons.